How's it going, guys? This is Cody, and today I'm going to be doing a review on another film that I really enjoy watching around the summertime. As I said in my last review for the film Saved, I'm going to be doing several reviews on films that I enjoy watching around the summertime, and a lot of these movies are going to be sort of family-friendly or kid-related films, like this one I'm going to be talking about in this video, but also some of them are going to be they're just going to be films that I just enjoy watching around the summertime, and I plan on doing a lot of these videos throughout, the rest of the summer until October, and then I'll start doing a lot more horror-related videos. But I do plan on, my next video will be a horror-related video because I haven't done one in a while, so I do plan on doing a new one later on this week. But anyway, today the movie I'm going to be doing a review of is Menace the Menace. And yeah, this is based on the classic, comic strip. And this movie, it's mixed for a lot of people. Some people enjoyed it, some people didn't. And I think that the main reason why a lot of people didn't enjoy it was because a lot of people that saw this grew up with the classic comic strip. And this movie doesn't follow it as well as I'm sure that they were hoping. But then again, when you're adapting a comic book series to a movie, it never works out as well as a lot of people hope, and so a lot of people are let down sometimes. But the way I see it, when I was a kid, I didn't read comic books. I never read the comic strips, so I wasn't introduced to Menace the Menace with the comic strips. I was introduced to him with this movie. So in a way, this was how I grew up with Menace the Menace. And then I started watching, and then I found out about the comic book strip. Actually, the first Menace the Menace movie I saw was the sequel to this one, which I'm also going to do a review for, Menace the Menace Strikes Again, which I really love as well. So, so I grew up with this. This was my Menace the Menace as a kid. And, yeah, this is basically just I'm sure for those of you who don't know about Menace the Menace, basically, you got this character Dennis, and he's essentially a menace. He causes a lot of people pain, especially his neighbor, Mr. Wilson, who he absolutely loves hanging out with. Like, Dennis considers Mr. Wilson to be like his best friend, and Mr. Wilson cannot stand Dennis. But Mr. Wilson is played by Walter Matthau, which I think he did a great job as Mr. Wilson. And from the point the movie begins, you can already tell that, Dennis puts Walter Matthau through hell, or puts Mr. Wilson, like in the opening scene in the movie, Dennis, he's coming with his bike, and it's got a wagon behind it, and he's pulling like his teddy bear, and these these jars of like snakes and spiders and stuff. He likes going out into the woods and capturing little snakes and stuff, and just different animals that he finds out, like frogs and stuff. And so Mr. Wilson, he runs into his bathroom and grabs a bunch of medicine and puts it next to his bed and acts like he's asleep so Dennis might go home. He ends up not doing that, and Dennis ends up thinking that he's really sick, and so he shoots an aspirin down Mr. Wilson's throat with his slingshot. And that's sort of the introduction of, Mr. Wilson hating the fact that Dennis lives next door, and Dennis he's always trying to help Mr. Wilson, but he ends up hurting him a lot and stuff. You're also introduced to Dennis's parents. His mother's played by Lea Thompson, this was the first movie I saw her in, and I didn't know who she was until years later. But it was cool. But now that I'm older, it was cool seeing her being in a family film. But the film is mostly just about Dennis being, who he is. He's just a young kid who hangs out with a lot of his friends. And one scene in the movie, he has to go to this girl named Margaret's house, who she's a real pain to him. She's kind of a bully, but she also has a crush on him. And you're introduced to his friend Joey, and they're like best friends. There's also one scene where he has all the kids in his neighborhood, and they play this huge game of hide and seek. And I remember as a kid, I was thinking, man, I wish I had that many friends. Then I could have this huge hide and seek game with all these kids, And you can tell Dennis, as far as with the younger kids, he's sort of popular, like he's everybody's friend. But of course, the adults know how much of a menace that he can be, without him not meaning to be. Then you're introduced to Christopher Lloyd's character, who I'm a huge fan of Christopher Lloyd. I grew up watching him in Angels in the Outfield was the first movie that I saw him in. And then, of course, Back to the Future, of course. And he plays Switchblade Sam, who's basically a robber who's come to town to rob, random people in the city. And, so he's kind of sneaking around. I really like how he's introduced. There's one scene where he jumps out of a train that comes to town, and there's another scene where he's sitting on this bridge, and there's a moon behind him, and then you see the river coming in. This movie's got a great style, because the town that they're in is a small town. There's woods around it, so you really get this kind of childhood nostalgia like feeling when you watch it. Even when I was a kid, I felt like I related to this sort of town because I sort of live in a smallish town, and there's woods around me and things like that, mostly. So I related to it, and I'm sure for adults that watch this movie now, I'm sure that they can sort of get a nostalgia for seeing the town. But there's a lot of great moments in this. At one point, both Dennis's parents have to go, and they have to they have to go out of town and stay overnight for their jobs. So Dennis ends up going to Mr. Wilson's house and staying there overnight. And there's a scene of this is a kind of a sweet scene of Mrs. Wilson telling a little bedtime poem to Dennis while he's laying in bed, and it's kind of a sweet moment. It's a fairy tale story. So you get you get this idea that both Mrs. Wilson, she wanted to have kids at one point, but Mr. Wilson never wanted to, and you get a lot of good character development. And you learn and you see a different side of Mr. Wilson, because from the point the movie begins, he's kind of like this grumpy old man, but as the movie goes on, you find out that he does have a soft heart, and he's just trying to live a happy life. And of course, Dennis is causing him a lot of pain. Well, I don't want to give away a lot about this film, but I will say that Christopher Lloyd's character, Switchblade Sam, ends up stealing some of Mr. Wilson's gold coins that he has, and from that point on, the movie kind of, the story of Dennis trying to get the gold back sort of begins. But as I said, this movie's really mixed with some people. In my opinion, if you're somebody who's grew up, if you're older and if you're somebody who grew up reading the comic books, you're probably not going to like this movie as much. But I would still recommend checking it out because I think it's a great family film. And if you have children, then I do think that they're going to enjoy it. This is a great family movie to watch, with your kids. And it's just there's a lot of great moments in it, like I said, and it's an all around good family film. And also, like I said, I might be kind of biased because if it's a movie I grew up watching, then I had the nostalgia of watching it as a kid. So rather, no matter how good the movie is, I have a nostalgia for it. So I'm going to still enjoy it. Even now that I'm an adult, I'm 22, I still enjoy it for what it is, and I still look at it as a good family film. And like I said, if you're somebody who grew up with the comic book strips, then you might not enjoy it as much. But since I grew up with the comic books, I didn't have anything to compare this with. I just saw the movie, and I just compared it with the movie. The same thing with when I did my review for the film adaptation of Leave It to Beaver. I didn't grow up with the TV series. I grew up with the movie Leave It to Beaver, so I have a nostalgia for the movie. And it's the same thing with this. I have a nostalgia for the film because I grew up with it. But yeah, if this sounds like a fun thing, if this sounds like something you would enjoy, I recommend checking it out. If you enjoy good 90s family films, then this is definitely one that I would recommend. This was produced by John Hughes, which is really great. He's done so many amazing films, so it does have this sort of John Hughes type feeling. It wasn't directed by him; it was directed by Nick Castle. But yeah, like I said, if this movie sounds interesting to you, and I recommend checking it out. If you're a parent and if you have kids, then I do think that they would really enjoy this one. There's nothing too scary about it. Like Christopher Lloyd's character, he is kind of spooky. He's dirty. He's kind of just a dirty looking character, but he never does anything too scary. So I would recommend, if you have children, I'd recommend watching it with them. But there's really nothing in this movie that I would say is too inappropriate for him. Also, another connection with John Hughes, Devin Ratray is in this, and he played Buzz in Home Alone. So that was it was cool to see him in something else other than the Home Alone films. And you guys know how much I love the Home Alone films. But anyway, guys, I'm babbling on too much about it. Like I said, if this movie sounds interesting to you guys, I recommend checking it out. And yeah, like I said before, my next video will be a horror-related video, so stay tuned for that. I've been working a lot this week. I'm working 4 days this week, but I have tomorrow and Thursday off, so I do plan on shooting another video and have it up by at least Thursday. Anyway, guys, thanks everyone for watching. Let me know what you guys thought about the video, and let me know if you've seen the movie Dennis the Menace or if you plan to. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.